Today I fucked up by losing 4.5 years of PhD research data by not checking if the backup was done properly. This actually happened over a year ago, but I can look back on it now and laugh since I just defended my PhD today. About 4.5 years into my PhD, I was working on a journal paper. I gathered all the data, wrote the code, did all the simulations, plotted the graphs, almost finished writing the paper. Labs IT said they had to take my PC and perform some security upgrades, and so they had to take my PC and wipe it first. They would need a few days to back everything up and wipe, and then put all the files back. I told them I had an urgent submission to make. I'll make the backup, just wipe and send to me quickly. So I copied all the files to Dropbox, and saw the green tick mark that says the backup is done, and then I give it to them. The FU is realized right after that. Dropbox sometimes gives a green tick mark, and then it turns blue and backs it up. I just saw the tick mark, and in my impatience, just gave it to them without letting the actual backup happen. Only a handful of small files did get backed up, and that was it. IT wiped everything and flipped the bits, so the data was lost forever. I, of course, had a mini heart attack once I realized what happened, but it was all lost. I also had data and paper drafts of my prior published works. They were lost too. Thankfully, my professor was considerate and said I just need to redo the stuff that wasn't published yet. Also, I actually had the draft of that paper saved, so I was able to use it to help rewrite the code from memory, and thankfully I bookmarked the links from where I got the data. It was a few months of very heavy work, but managed to replicate the work, and got it published. The other stuff we didn't care much about, since they were already published. Now IT actually has a new policy in place, which is that they will back up everything no matter what. Apparently my incident was the starting point lol. So yeah, everyone, please make multiple backups of everything, like I do now lol. Too long didn't read, lost years of PhD research work in my lab's PC since I didn't carefully check my backup before IT wiped it for upgrading, lost everything. I was able to do some damage control, and can look back on it now since my PhD is complete today. Well, what can I say except congrats. Now you get to rock the title of doctor. True dat, thanks. Just need to find a job now. I have done this kind of thing more than I care to admit. I now keep insane backups everywhere, and pay AWS fees like a mad ferret. I had Dropbox set up to automatically back up all my work, and had my home computer set up to keep local copies of the Dropbox as well. I'm NGL. Until I read just defended my PhD today. I was about to start crying for you. I'm glad it all worked out, but OMFG. You're a lucky motherfucker. Don't think my mom would want me for that lol. But I was lucky, true. I was prepared to say my condolences, and send flowers. Really glad it worked out in the long run. Also congrats on getting a new policy created, and for having a horror story to back it up. Today I fucked up by accidentally getting my fiancé and myself high AF before our first dinner date with our neighbors. This happened last night and we're still laughing about it. My fiancé and I made dinner plans with our neighbors earlier this week and we've been so excited to finally have them over. COVID hit right after we moved to town, but they've been so welcoming and wonderful. They babysit our dog sometimes and take him for walks. The husband is a retiree and does some at-home brewing that he's more than happy to share. The wife is head of the town's beautification committee and helps my fiancée with her garden. Just amazing people. Since we're all finally vaccinated, we decided to have them over for dinner Friday night. I was feeling a little stressed from work that afternoon, so I decided to take some tincture that our friend makes and shares with us. Weed is legal in my state. Since my fiancé and I are weed newbies, he taught us you put a few drops under your tongue and you get a body high, but your mind stays intact. So that's what we've been doing for the last couple months whenever we want a little buzz. However, a few drops didn't really cut it. We found we had to use a whole dropper's worth to get the full effect, and that, under your tongue, burns like hell. Anyway, it's late afternoon before dinner and I crack open a brand new bottle of tincture my fiancé got from our friend this past weekend because our first bottle was out. I'm not in the mood to deal with the burning sensation, so I put a dropper full in my can of Diet Dr. Pepper and just down it. While it wasn't great, It was much better than burning my tongue off. So, I go to my fiance and tell her she should do some too since we're both a little stressed about the impending company. She repeats my newfound technique and we continue getting the house ready. She's cleaning and I'm cooking. Just as the neighbors arrive I know I'm not feeling right. I'm tripping balls hard. Literally the highest I've been in years. We hold some brief conversation with the neighbors and get them served and seated. I follow my future wife into the kitchen and she turns and sees my face. What? I whisper scream, I'm high as fuck. You are? ? And then I lose it. I just start laughing so hard. I can't breathe. This entire situation is ridiculous. Our 70-year-old neighbors are finally over for dinner after a doozy of a year and I'm high as a kite. Then the thought hits me, my fiance is about to trip balls just as hard. And I'm giggling furiously, whispering through my tears. It's coming for you. It's coming for you. I manage to get myself under control just as I leave the kitchen and go to the dining room. During the meal I start to realize how fucking high my fiance is and she's not handling it well. She excuses herself and comes back and says her stomach doesn't feel well, but I know what's really going on. She's freaking out and she's trying to get them out of here ASAP because she can't deal. However, they didn't really pick up on the hint, and I was in no position to offer the backup, because I was high as fuck. Now, I've never been a huge fan of weed because of how paranoid I get, but for some reason I was able to ride the wave and laugh at the whole situation in my head. It was so uncomfortable and so hilarious, like an episode of The Office. Somehow my fiance was able to rally, and after an hour or so of forced conversation in which we tried our hardest to sound like two normal, functioning adults, our neighbors left. As soon as the door closed we burst out laughing. My stomach still hurts from how much we laughed. We were crying, unable to breathe. After calming down, we came to the conclusion that this new bottle of tincture is much stronger than our last. Also, my friend informed us that if you don't do the dropper method and just ingest it, like we did, it hits you more like an edible, which it absolutely did. Anyway, we're now convinced our neighbors think we're crazy people, but on the bright side we went to the gas station a mile up the road and absolutely pigged out on ice cream and other sweets. Too long didn't read. My fiance and I accidentally got high AF and had to pretend to be fine during a much anticipated dinner date with our 70-year-old neighbors. Update: so our neighbor came over to help us with some yard work this morning, and my wife to-be spilled the beans to her. Apparently they had no idea and had a wonderful evening. She said my husband is going to get a kick out of this. Ha ha ha. All's well that ends well. If they're 70 they've possibly, been there, done that. They may have gone home and laughed about how stoned you were. I'm 64, trust me, we've known about this shit since before you were born. Delivery methods have changed, though. Can confirm. I have a dear friend who's in her mid-70s, and she often tells me stories of how stupid her grandkids must think she is. She's an herbalist, and can function better stoned than anyone I know. If you count backwards you will get that your neighbors who are 70 now were just the right age for 1969 to hit. They were high then and they get that you were high now. They were not upset. My parents were the same age and were stoned in 1969. Highlights for me. Whisper scream. It's coming for you. It's coming for you. Well done, this was hilarious. Plot twist, they were high AF too. My favorite part was, it's coming for you. Ha 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 ha. Today I fucked up by telling a joke in front of Auschwitz. Let me start by saying it happened on the 30th of May 2017. It was a school trip to Poland. We planned a visit to the KZ Auschwitz on the third day of our trip, and as a German this is a very important thing. The whole biz ride was really depressing and the visit overall was a shocking experience. Before the guided tour started we were waiting in front of the gates. Me and my mates were drinking the night before and our teacher asked us how it went. So we started talking a bit about the previous night and our problems of getting out of bed that morning. Because we were in double rooms, we had to share a toilet. So after a night of drinking, I had the urgent desire to use said toilet. After I finished, my roommate had the great idea to use a lot of Axe body spray to get rid of the smell. The plan didn't really work and we had to abandon our room for half an hour. So I tell the story of us nearly choking in a mixture of Axe/fart and end the story loudly with the punchline, "Man, it was like a gas chamber in there." It is crazy how quiet a crowd of 100 plus students can be. My friends were dying of quiet laughter, which wasn't any better, while I got very red and excused to everyone. Didn't say a word for the next 2 hours of our tour. Too long, didn't read, said my room was like a gas chamber in front of a KZ. That's rough. Try not to think about it too much. An Auschwitz survivor dies and goes to heaven. When he arrives, he meets God, and God asks him if he has any good jokes. The Auschwitz survivor tells a Holocaust joke. God says that's not very funny. The Auschwitz survivor says, "I guess you had to be there." Yes, I felt bad for you. Yes, I burst out laughing. Sometimes when we have a certain taboo thing on our minds, it gets really difficult to keep from talking about it. Moreso when you're super focused on not mentioning it. Don't be too hard on yourself. Okay, I have a small story for you up. When I was 8/9, I was in 2nd or 3rd class. There were a group of Japanese people who came out to our class and told stuff about Japan. It was fascinating. I'd how to spell. They told me to guess where Japan is. I pointed at Philippines and it was wrong. Then they asked, what do we know about Japan? Some kids said stuff like rice, weird symbols, that dot flag, etc. But my dumbass said one thing I should never had said. Exclamation mark. I fucking said, atom fucking bomb. Exclamation mark. Because they didn't understand my language and I didn't understand them, my teacher had to translate it. And my teacher fucking did it without hesitation. Like she didn't even consider it something people want to forget. Well, Japanese went quiet and I had no clue why until like 6th grade. I'm so embarrassed and I apologize to every Japanese person. That one's on your teacher, you were just a kid.